Hey, we're back here with another episode of the Market Garden. I'm Andrew Boucher. I'm going to show you how I'm going to be using a flame torch to burn our holes in our weed barrier so we can begin planting. We use a torch to keep our weed barrier intact so you're not breaking any of the fibrous forming of it. So I'll show you the process of getting our form made for our torching and planting those tomatoes. So here we're going to be planting the tomatoes 18 to 24 inches apart, which is why I'm using the blowtorch to go down and blow about that. It doesn't always have to be super precise, but you want to have it between 18 and 24 inches. You can plant basil with your tomatoes. We won't be doing that just yet. We want to make sure our tomatoes have enough room to grow and be successful first. As you can see, we have these little tomatoes down here. These are all your cherry tomatoes. They're much more viney, and so we're going to be planting our larger big boy tomatoes down over here. So I'm going to continue burning down here every 18 to 24 inches and continue on cooking. So here we have all the tomatoes we plan to be planting today. We have a mixture of some of these purples, these big boys, which is what most people get when they go to the grocery store. These ones are another local, which I think are part of the Bonnie's Best, which are a little bit more of an interesting look one so that you can kind of see a little bit more spindly. But we have a lot of the big boys because that's usually what most people go to look for when they go to the farmer's market. So we have those as a lion's share of our crop. Some of these purples, which will be much more interesting, more kind of bubbly look to them, but a much more deeper color, more variety that gives it more of what, when people think of organic, that's traditionally what they're thinking of is a weirder looking tomato, but they all will taste great. Should all do fairly well out here in our 6-8 climate, which is where central Missouri is at. So I'm going to get to work digging holes for these and putting some of them in. So when I'm digging this, I want to be digging down so it's at an angle because we want all these hairs that we see on the tomato plant that can become roots. So we'll be trimming off those extra branches that are further down, and we don't want our roots to just be so bound up, so I'll be breaking that up some so that it's not so caught up and bound there, laying it down and covering it back up. And I'm not going to really compact that soil. I'm not trying to, really force it into any specific position because I want it to grow well. And I'll put some of the extra soil back behind it so it grows up. And I'll put these in there so we can remember what ones they are. They're not super important because this row should all be big boys, but we don't want to be confused later on if we need to add anything that is better for one species over another. So this is our form that we were building earlier. I use it to be able to do my intercropping plants, which will be a lot more of our lettuce, vegetables, and our different salad greens that we can plant together. We're going to be doing mainly a lot of lettuce is a lot of a good cash crop you can use that you can sell a lot of farmers markets. And here you want to have those be 5 inches from the edge and then 10 inches between each plant in these directions. So we can burn these 3. I would like this full sheet to be drilled out, but if you saw in the video, I broke the bit. So we're going to make the best out of it and use this to match up to our previous holes when we get down to that part and burn through all these. So we keep our spacing even so we can make sure cultivating is easiest. You don't want to do any extra shapes, every diamonds or all the other designs you see, because you want to cut down your cultivation time because that's when you're going to be bent over the most, going through everything. And the easier you make that for yourself now, the more ahead you'll be in the future. So we use the torch in here for this design, specifically for most of the weed barriers we have. Over like 95% of my weed barrier is a much more fibrous one. So cutting into it weakens the structural integrity of it and overall is more of a pain to go through. Where we can use the torch, lay this down and burn through and have a much more clean, even hole and try to keep ourselves as consistent and overall effective as possible without having to break our back or being bent over at awkward angles all the time, because that's definitely how you turn an easy day of gardening into a week of pain. So here we're going to have our lettuce planted in here, and the lettuce is a quicker crop. It takes way less time to come to fruition and be able to harvest than like our tomatoes will. Those will take some time. So we're gonna get multiple pulls of lettuce from here, which is why we want these things to be as space efficient as possible, because the quicker we can get that lettuce seed in the ground, which we don't need to pre-start these. In some of the other climates you may want to, but we're gonna just be planting directly into here. And when we do these seeds, they'll come up pretty quickly and we'll be able to get multiple harvests out of this season. So we want to try to get as much different garden salad mix, you know, greens that you want to be able to get out as possible, so you can get used to your season. Know when times when you're gonna have to add different plant additives to scare off other pests, different beetles in a lot of cases, and find out where you need to adjust, because your first season going in, there's gonna be failures in there, but those failures are lessons. So you wanna just be able to try to get as much knowledge out of your garden as possible during that time frame, which is what this will allow us to do. So we got a couple more days worth of work out here to go through and burn the rest of the holes and get planted what we need. So we're gonna keep plugging away at that, and we'll get back together with you guys whenever everything is planted and ready. I'm gonna get to work and continue burning and digging.